Alrighty, welcome again to another edition of Pain Radio Group Community Spotlight. I'm your host, as usual, Howard Houchen, and this is the show every week on Community Spotlight where we kind of step outside the bounds of the normal programming here on Pain Radio Group, and we take a look at an event, an issue, an individual, something that can potentially and probably have an impact on folks in a listening area, especially here in southeast Oklahoma. And this week is no different. I'm going to bring on a very special guest, a very good friend of mine. You've actually heard from her before. We're going to bring on Kaye Beach, a columnist, an independent researcher, an activist, and just all-around sweet, swell person. But she's not sweet all the time. She can get nitty-gritty with you with the research and the facts. Kaye, welcome.
Thank you, Howard. How are you doing today?
Kaye, I'm always doing great, especially when I get to interview you and talk to you.
Same here. It's good to hear you.
Okay, now you are aware, and some folks around the area here in southeast Oklahoma may not be aware, but there has been a lot of money spent on especially newspaper advertising that are very anti-e-cigarette. This is electronic cigarettes or electronic nicotine delivery systems or vape devices, vaporizing devices for the delivery of in some cases, nicotine, but not all cases. And anytime something like this pops up, and some of these look very official, Kaye, and you're very well aware of the public health advisory that came from the Oklahoma State Department of Health. And then Little Dixie Community Action Agency has a program called the Project CORE, which is intended to decrease smoking in the area among youth and under individuals to help promote proper health in the area. But out of the blue, down here in southeast Oklahoma, these ads start popping up at how horrific these e-cigarettes are. They're just terrible. And you had the opportunity, Kaye, here very recently, Senator Brian Crane, Oklahoma State Senator Brian Crane, I think Representative David Derby, they had an interim study. It was a joint interim study up at the Oklahoma State Capitol. Let's delve into the facts of e-cigarettes versus cigarettes here, and let's try to find some truth in a lot of this propaganda. And Kaye, you also happen to be one of the individuals who says, and I believe you, that e-cigarettes could have possibly saved your life because you used to be a smoker, right?
That's absolutely right, and this is what my interest is in this issue of the electronic cigarettes, and they're known as vapes or vapor products. To the people that use them, is that I have been a smoker. I hate to reveal this, but for 30 years, I've been a smoker. I'm one of those what you would consider a diehard smoker that against all reason and sensibility keeps on smoking. They either can't quit or they won't quit. And I will be honest with you, I had pretty much resigned myself, my foolish self, to being one of those people that smoked for as long as God let me be on this earth, knowing that it might shorten that time. And so when these devices came around and I had tried them, I got a hold of a really good one a few months ago. And I will be honest with you, I didn't start using it with the intention of quitting, but I thought, hey, if it could help me cut down, that'd be great. And it did immediately. I dropped from a pack a day to maybe 4 or 5 a day. And a few weeks ago, I went to go and pick up a pack of cigarettes, and I pulled up to the convenience store, and I went, you know what? I don't need this. I don't even really want it. I prefer the vapor to the smoking cigarettes, and I have not smoked one since then. It has been almost 3 solid weeks, and anybody that knows me and knows how I love my cigarettes will find that purely amazing and astonishing. So I am a big advocate of these devices. They are, without question, far safer than smoking cigarettes, and they are saving people's lives.
Exactly, and you are not alone in making that claim. As a matter of fact, Kaye, as you dove into the research, and you and I actually, we helped organize an event on January the 1st up at the Capitol, and there were folks there. We asked, who has made that change? Do you think that an e-cigarette has had a positive impact by allowing you to quit smoking? We had lots of folks raise their hand. We hear more and more testimony every day coming out of folks who have used this product without adverse health effects, and they say it helps them quit smoking.
That's right. And so all the more perplexing that we have our public health guardians, like the Oklahoma State Department of Health and the various coalitions, coming out in an effort that to be completely fair and honest about this, is nothing more than propaganda. Now, you know that I am not huffing away on this vapor product, on this vaping device, without knowing what I'm putting in my body. And I did the research on it, and when I looked at some of these health advisories and went in and looked at their citations and what they were basing some of these claims on, I can, like I said, it's propaganda, it's twisted, and it's inaccurate.
Exactly.
And so we all have this big question: why would these organizations have been fighting smoking, which everybody agrees is really bad, and not too many people have a problem with that. But now they turned to focusing on these e-cigarettes, and the thing everybody wants to know is why.
Exactly.
Why is this the biggest problem we have?
And we're going to get into the why, but before we get into the why, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. I want to actually go over point by point, and you did a great job researching this and laying facts out there relative to e-cigarettes versus smoking. And one of the most prominent anti-e-cig ads that's been pushed out here. Now, I do want to remind everyone, and we'll get into why this is important in a minute, is that this is a message that's being sponsored by Choctaw County Coalition, Little Dixie's Drug-Free Communities Program, and the Little Dixie's Project Core. Now, they are sponsoring this. Now, keep in mind, this is a public health advisory that was issued by the Oklahoma State Department of Health. And, Kaye, I'm going to read some of these points, and you developed the responses to these, which, by the way, have not been they haven't been challenged. Even Dr. Terry Klein can't challenge or has attempted to challenge these counterpoints that you came up with. Now, the first point from the Oklahoma State Department of Health is that from their public health advisory was that all consumers are advised to use caution when using or considering the use of electronic cigarettes, electronic delivery systems, or other vapor products. What is the response to that?
Well, you just have to question how much caution is really warranted when we know that cigarettes, we're told, will kill half of the people that smoke them and will shorten the lives of many who smoke. The World Health Organization projects 1 billion lives lost to smoking. Now, we're not talking about chewing tobacco or anything like that, but smoking in the 21st century. And of course, our health departments, I wouldn't expect them to come out and endorse this product. It is relatively new. It's been widely used since maybe 2006 or 2007. And since we have had no problem, we haven't had any people dropping dead from them or any problems. We wouldn't expect them to come out and endorse it yet. They're supposed to be cautious with our health. But when they talk about the safety of the e-cigarettes, let's put it in perspective. Let's look at the safety and what we know about the e-cigarettes versus cigarettes. Cigarettes will kill you. And any doctor, if you go ask a doctor, is such and such safe? Is anything safe? No doctor, no scientist is going to come out and say anything is 100% safe. Scientific integrity does not allow for that sort of a statement. But what we do know is that the e-cigarettes, by orders of magnitude, are safer than cigarettes. And that is the question that people like me want answered.
And that's one thing that, and I just absolutely, oh gosh, and I'm trying to think of his name right now, Kaye. It was Joel Nitzkin, who came out. He was actually at the interim study at the Capitol, and I believe he put e-cigarettes at a 90, it was 99% or 98% safer than cigarettes.
Yes, he did. That is a conservative estimate. So if you want to compare the two, e-cigarettes are at least 99% safer than smoking. So what is Kaye Beach going to do when she finds an e-cigarette totally takes care of this bad habit or addiction with cigarettes? And it's 99% safer? I mean, is this not a sensible choice? It really is.
Exactly. Now, let's just go to point number 2. We're going to try to run through these from the Oklahoma State Department of Health and their advisory. It says e-cigarettes vapor products contain chemicals. Oh, my gosh, chemicals. Including nicotine, which is toxic and highly addictive. Nicotine affects the nervous system and heart and can be absorbed into the body through inhalation, ingestion, and skin contact. Excessive exposure to nicotine can result in poisoning, particularly in young children and pets. Liquid contained or used in e-cigarettes or vapor devices should not be accessible to children. The response to that?
The response to that is that's all true. Nicotine does have toxic properties. It is apparently addictive. It does affect your nervous system and heart, much like caffeine does. And, you know, in the principle in science is the dose makes the poison. So you can OD on a lot of things. But this is the same nicotine that is contained in the FDA-approved products like the patches or the gum or the lozenges. And I can remember back when I was being certified as an EMT back in, I think, 2007, one of the things we touched upon with accidental poisonings or overdoses was the availability of all of these nicotine patches and products that they did have kids that would turn up that got sick from them. To my knowledge, none have died, but it certainly can make them sick. And yes, the nicotine juice that goes into the vapor product should obviously be kept out of reach of kids, obviously.
You know, but you said something, and this needs to be expanded on. There is nothing in an e-cigarette that is not already contained in FDA-approved smoking cessation devices, is there?
That's absolutely true. In fact, there was a study that came out comparing, and this is actually one of the studies cited by OSDH Health Commissioner Terry Klein. It was in his citations that compared the ingredients and possible contaminants, or however you want to look at it, the chemicals in the e-cigarette juice with the chemicals that are in the nicotine inhaler, which is promoted and provided by our government to people who wish to quit smoking. And
so you mean that our government will actually provide us these dangerous toxins and chemicals?
They will.
Oh.
They will actually provide it for you. They are promoting it through the helpline. And that's one of the things that these coalitions, you know, whenever you see tobacco policy, whether it's banning or prohibitions or higher taxes or what have you, anything related to tobacco policy has implicit in it the promotion of the pharmaceutical products to quit smoking, including medications like Chantix and Zyban, both of which have a FDA black box warning on them, and there have been deaths associated with them. So this is one of the things that really makes me passionate about this issue.
And
so while they're trying to remove my ability or limit the accessibility of this benign e-cigarette, they are also at the same time promoting dangerous drugs like Chantix or Zyban.
Exactly, and we're going to get into more details on these other drugs that government is promoting in a minute, but I want to stay on this because there's another very important point about, look, you can already get, you know, government is already promoting this stuff. It's just it's their stuff. The pharmaceutical companies, like you said, they're working hand in hand. But you actually called the Oklahoma State Department of Health and said you were a 42-year-old pregnant woman. Can I get nicotine? Or basically, that was the summation of it.
Can I get the nicotine replacement products, which, as you mentioned, are the same, have the same ingredients as the, including the inhaler, as the e-cigarettes.
And what did they say?
Well, you have to get a little note from your doctor saying that it's okay, but that's sort of just, you know, a customary formality thing, because here's the facts. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't use nicotine at all. But if you can't or will not quit smoking, it is much safer to use a nicotine replacement, a clean nicotine replacement product, anything but smoking. And so, yes, they will provide these two pregnant women, even 42-year-old pregnant women. And that's sensible when you think about it. Like I said, the ideal would be do none at all. But if you're given the choice and you're not going to quit smoking or you can't, you're much better to take a measured dose of clean nicotine and not be inhaling that smoke, because that right there is where the big problem lies.
Which is a perfect lead-in to the next point that is made by the Oklahoma State Department of Health. And they say because all nicotine is derived from tobacco, it contains tobacco-related contaminants that can be harmful. That's that's a little more than a proper. That's kind of a lie.
Well, it can be harmful. Anything can be harmful. So their rule, they use these weaselly phrases and words so that they're not actually lying. And this is why I say that it is propaganda. It's accurately classified as propaganda. And I hate to call anybody a liar, but all nicotine comes from tobacco that we utilize anyways. But it actually is found in like 66 other species of plants, including tomatoes and potatoes. It's just that the tobacco is the easiest place to get it from.
Well, that's the reason I'm not going to take the safe. I know that you're taking the safe, right? Because their assertion is, and it's their words are, because all nicotine is derived from tobacco, and that's just simply not the case. All nicotine is not derived. Nicotine exists, and like you say,
you get nicotine in your daily diet as part of everyone's daily diet.
Exactly. So, the fact is that you can be derived from 66 other species of plants. It's most cost effective for the smoking community to use tobacco. But the deal is that it's not the nicotine in cigarette smoke that causes the cancer, is it?
No, it's the smoke that will kill you. Nicotine has not been shown to cause cancer, although it does have an effect on your system. It is a stimulant, and there could be possibly some negative effects for certain portions of the population with that. But, the bottom line on this is they're trying to show that these things are harmful and they're a concern. And study after study is showing, as Joel Nitzkin said, the exhaled vapor presents no threat to non-users that would justify ban. And that's what I found in my research. We justified these bans based on the dangers that we're told comes from environmental tobacco smoke, which is that secondhand, that side stream smoke that comes off an end of a cigarette, okay, that could possibly harm other people. And this is the justification for smoking bans. There is no such justification for the e-cigarettes. They are not shown again and again to have any levels of contaminants or harmful substances at any level that would make it a concern for people in general, and certainly not outside. And this is what really gets me. If you go to a public park with the executive order that was passed by Fallon, you would have to, Robbers Cave, you would have to get in your car, drive off of that public park property for you to be legally allowed to smoke, use a tobacco product, or an e-cigarette. That's completely ridiculous.
That brings us perfectly to the next point about the side stream smoke of combustible tobacco, smoking that, and the carcinogenic effects and the toxins that come from that. And here we have the Oklahoma State Department of Health claiming that e-cigarettes vapor products emit vapor that contains propylene glycol and tobacco-related contaminants such as formaldehyde and tobacco-specific nitrosamines. The vapor product by these products is not water vapor. Now, what they're trying to tell us is that they contain contaminants such as formaldehyde here, propylene glycol. They're going to use these words, but you explained to us about propylene glycol and then this claim about the formaldehyde and what they're claiming is coming out on this vapor.
Well, the propylene glycol, which is the main carrier ingredient that is in the e-cigarettes, that's what makes the vapor. Now, this is the same substance that's used to make theatrical smoke. It is also used up to 40% in certain injectables, meaning they inject it into your body. It is also used, as we mentioned, in the FDA nicotine replacement products, including the inhaler. And it's even used as a propellant in asthma, breathing treatments, and so on. So we've used this propylene glycol for human consumption. It's in all cosmetics. It's in everything. It's just a very benign ingredient. And we have had it in everything for 40 years. So this is not a new substance, and it's not a completely unknown substance or anything like that, as they would have you believe.
What my theory on this, and this is just a theory, because you see this in about every talking point relative, you see the propylene glycol and the formaldehyde, is that, look, propylene glycol, as you said, is the carrying agent in asthma medication. When I use a nebulizer, and I have to use albuterol or something, that is there's a propylene glycol in that helps deliver that medicine to my lungs. Propylene glycol has been around forever, as you said. It's in everything, but I think that they believe people will confuse propylene glycol with ethylene glycol, which is in antifreeze.
Which is toxic.
And
it's the
that's
toxic portion of antifreeze. Now, let me tell you, propylene glycol is what gives antifreeze that pink color, but they add propylene glycol because it's a de-icer and it's non-toxic, so that we have less instances of animals or children being poisoned by it, because both of those substances, ethylene and propylene glycol, have a sweetish taste to them. So when they say that propylene glycol is antifreeze or whatever, it is in antifreeze, but it's what's added to antifreeze to make it non-toxic, yet still do the job that it's supposed to do, which is keep it from freezing.
And
it's used as a de-icer as well.
It's FDA approved, been used for years. It's in medications,
it's generally
cosmetics.
recognized as safe anywhere you want to put it on your body
now,
or in it.
Let's address the claim about the formaldehyde.
That was the one that really got my attention because, my goodness, I don't want to be breathing formaldehyde. And so I went out and looked around to see what I could find about this formaldehyde claim. And I looked at the citations in the OSDH Public Health Advisory on e-cigarettes. And the basis for this claim comes from a German study. And what is very interesting is in the German study, they set up a test chamber and they had people come in and smoke some e-cigarettes, and they measured the levels of whatever chemical while they're in there, including formaldehyde. A funny thing happened, though. They got the person in the test chamber before they used the e-cigarette, and the formaldehyde levels minutely registered, a minute amount. And it didn't move much after that, after they started using the e-cigarettes. So what the researchers say is formaldehyde in minute quantities is found in our breath, and that is likely what is responsible for the detected formaldehyde in the test. But now this is what our health commissioner is using as a basis for his claim that we're being exposed to formaldehyde. And I don't think for a minute that Terry Klein doesn't know how to read research. I'm sure that he does. And so what else am I to think except that is being twisted?
Look, and there have been subsequent studies. And we're going to have to move on here, but one of the claims is that, look, so little research has been done on this. Well, Kaye, I don't know where they're looking, but I get to find lots of research. I know you do as well, and these are scholarly produced from institutions of higher education and research and learning all across Europe, even here in the United States. And peer-reviewed research in the scientific community. And the fact of the matter is, this whole formaldehyde claim is bogus as bogus gets.
It is bogus. And you know what? There was a recent in-depth study of 9,000 observations on all the research that's out there on e-cigarettes. And the author of the study is out of Drexel University. His name is Igor Bursting. And this is a peer-reviewed piece of research here. He said, they say that there's not enough research and all that. And he said the amount of research available for us to make policy decisions on e-cigarettes is comparable to any other novel substance out there that comes into the workplace or what have you. And so the fact of the matter is we make policy decisions based on available research that is equal or greater to the body of research on e-cigarettes all the time.
Okay. Now let's get into the why. Why are we seeing this? Why are we seeing this huge push against e-cigarettes? And I'm going to go ahead and have you explain everything from the Master Settlement Agreement down to the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust here in Oklahoma, all the way down to the Turning Point Community Transformation Grants, down to this little Project Core. Go from the top and come down.
Okay.
Why are we seeing it, Kaye?
Well, I'm going to give you some facts, and I think that your listeners can draw their own conclusions. But essentially, the Master Settlement Agreement was arrived at in 1998 between a whole bunch of the states and some U.S. territories, and it was to provide compensation to the states for the deceptive practices and the health-related costs of smoking to the taxpayers. That's what the Master Settlement Agreement was for. Now, that agreement provides the states with, there's different estimates, but around $243 billion over 25 years, plus $10 billion per year in perpetuity. Interestingly enough, this is not shouldered by the tobacco industry as much as it is by the predominantly low-income smokers that buy cigarettes. They raise the cost on cigarettes passed on to the people. So now we have all this money coming in, and we have to figure out what to do with it. So there was a constitutional amendment that was passed by the voters
here in Oklahoma.
2000. Yeah, to create the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust, also called TSET. And TSET is charged with investing these master settlement funds that we get every year. 75% of those funds go straight to the TSET, and then they're supposed to use the earnings off of the investments to fund their programs, okay? Now, one thing that's interesting is we had something called the Turning Point Initiative. It's a health initiative that was funded by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation. I believe it's in the neighborhood of $38 million between 1996 and 2005. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is essentially the political arm of Johnson & Johnson, which is a pharmaceutical company. Robert Wood Johnson is one of the biggest shareholders in Johnson & Johnson, and Johnson & Johnson either manufactures or sells or markets stuff like Nicoderm, Nicotrol, Nicorette, those things, okay? Robert Wood Johnson funds a whole bunch of these non-governmental organizations and charities. They fund research. They fund universities. And so this is what I find really interesting. The Oklahoma State Department of Health adopted Robert Wood Johnson's Turning Point philosophy as a basis for our public health system in Oklahoma back in 2000. They did this formally. So the Robert Wood Johnson's Turning Point is built into the organizational fabric of our public health system. I think that is interesting. But what we see now is that, and you can find this in the TSET's document, tobacco control policies, so we're talking about higher taxation on tobacco products, insurance coverage for cessation products, bans, prohibition, things like that. When I say that promotion of these pharmaceutical products is implicit in these policies, such as banning e-cigarettes or what have you, it is. It is fully integrated. So when you have tobacco control policies, you also have tobacco cessation promotion, which means that basically our government and the NGOs are partners with Big Pharma.
With big pharmaceutical
The government
companies.
has become the salesmen and marketers for Big Pharma. That's just the fact.
Exactly. And that's the point that I want everyone to understand, is that you have a partnership between government and the big pharmaceutical companies who literally, this is a billion upon billions of dollars a year industry of these tobacco cessation products. And we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't mention, what is the success rate of pharmaceutically approved cessation products?
Well, they have a 9 out of 10 failure rate. In fact, the most successful way, and this is shown by, historical data, this is not hard, not conjecture or anything, for the people that actually quit smoking for more than a year or so, serious quitters, the single best way to quit smoking apparently is cold turkey, but you
Yes.
won't find our government promoting cold turkey. You'll find them promoting tobacco products while simultaneously prohibiting other tobacco products or other nicotine-containing products, rather. And so it looks like it smacks of protectionism is what it does. But then down there in Choctaw County, here's how the TSET comes in. The TSET getting all those master settlement agreement funds these coalitions, and you'll notice that your Choctaw County coalition is part of Turning Point. Turning Point exists in 72 counties, and remember that was the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation funded initiative. So they're getting money. They're getting grant money from the TSET. And for them to get this grant money, the stipulation is, and this is the gold level, go for the gold, requirement, is that you have to get a certain proportion of cities in that county who prohibit not only smoking, not only tobacco, but also include e-cigarettes. And there is money riding on that. In fact, in the just Choctaw County Coalition that worked on this, $1,700,784 is their cumulative total from the TSET. This year, or maybe it was 2013, that coalition gets paid to instigate all of these policies, and they do it in your name. They do it as a representative of the community, but they got $220,000, I believe, in 2013 for that work. And the sad thing is, these people are mostly good people that are trying to help their community, and they're being diverted from doing helpful things with this whole e-cigarette gambit. And that makes me angry for them.
And that's the point, and I had a letter to the editor that was printed in the paper. And, I'm not disparaging these groups. Little Dixie Community Action Agency is a wonderful group. They have been here for the good folks of Choctaw County through thick and thin. They have done wonderful things. They just received $512,520 as part of a community transformation grant. You're well aware of that. And Project CORE, which is a smoking cessation part of the health part of this. But the problem is that I think that they are prohibiting folks. They are encouraging them to move away from something that is exponentially more healthy, more effective than the pharmaceutical products that are being pushed out there. That, by the way, just the nature of the grant says that they have to push the pharmaceutical products. And we're running out of time, but when you talk about Chantix and Zyban, you have a choice between choosing something like Chantix, which, like you said, has a black box label. Gee, I'm going to have suicidal thoughts, or should I use an e-cigarette? Which one do you choose?
This is a grave misuse of the good health coalitions that exist that have done lots of good for your community. And I am outraged at that they're being forced to divert their attention over to something that is benign at the very least and very helpful at the best for people that are wanting to quit smoking, which is what these coalitions do. It's a misuse of these community coalitions. It really is.
Well, Kaye, I agree 100%, and we are out of time. I wish we could sit here and talk for hours on this, but I think we hit on the high points. I think that the listeners out there can will be able to reach their own conclusion. If not, do further research. And Kaye, you have volumes of research on this. Where can folks go online if they want to look at some of the research you've done, some of the publications, some of your writings on what's going on with the government push against e-cigarettes?
They can search for my name, Kaye Beach, and it's spelled just like beach, Beach, in Google, and probably put tobacco or e-cigarettes in there and find tons of stuff. But they can also go to my website, and that website is axiomforliberty.com. It's Axiom spelled with two X's, FORLIBERTY.com, axiomforliberty.com.
That sounds like a plan. All right.